I know there's people here for whom this might be a little bit niche. So I wanted to just explain, when we talk about an encyclopedia of Jewish theology or an encyclopedia of theology and the Judaism section, what do we mean by that? What are the differences between Jewish philosophy and Jewish theology? And what's this all about? So Jewish philosophy, so I wanted to to distinguish between them and then talk about really the whole project. So Jewish philosophy is a discipline we would kind of normally recognize as attempts to reconcile Jewish beliefs with rational thought. Essentially something that's kind of began or attributed to the medieval times with Saadia Gaon and Rambam, the Maimonides, emerging during the Middle Ages, and then of course continuing through time. Some of the main issues were issues of those days, which have continued: ethics, free will, providence, issues that have, I suppose, kind of changed, or also kind of remained in our times, but also that have changed. There's often in Jewish philosophy, there's a big kind of emphasis on engagement with non-Jewish ideas, and then how to kind of square Jewish belief and ideas with non-Jewish philosophy. So that's kind of, if you wanted to kind of describe Jewish philosophy in a nutshell, that's how you would describe Jewish philosophy. Jewish theology, and now I'm talking specifically about the Encyclopaedia, is really the study of some of these subjects of Jewish thought from an inside faith perspective, from a perspective of religious belief. So Jewish theology will focus on the nature of God, divine revelation, humanity's relation with the divine. Sources will be rooted in Torah, Talmud, Midrash, rabbinic literature, and then all the way through until contemporary Jewish theological literature. We'll explore concepts such as monotheism, covenant, messianic redemption, and specifically, I suppose the main kind of goal is to emphasize the implications for lived religious life. So, how does this impact your thought? How does this impact religious belief? And in that way, it's internal. So there have been certain debates sometimes that have come up in the creation, the development of this encyclopedia, and Brendan has encouraged me and Bill, I think, as well, to take an emic approach. Emic wasn't a word that I had heard of in this context, and I want to talk about the word emic because it's become very profound for me in creating the encyclopedia. So emic is a word that's often used in anthropology, in the anthropology of religion, and it normally refers to understanding and describing a culture in terms of the concepts and language used by members of that culture itself. In other words, it is the Jewish theology will be written by people for whom there are deep theological implications. And that's been something that's kind of been at the heart of the encyclopedia, and I've come to appreciate that and understand that as well as from my own perspective. So when we consider some of the challenges of outside phenomenon to Jewish life and thought, the entries that we've published already are insider perspectives in a sense, and they're often intensely believed to be true and profound for the internal worlds of the authors, which I think is very special. So today, a lot of work has by the team has gone into producing a certain amount of articles by today on technology, Jewish theological approaches to technology. I'm not going to remember all of them off by heart, or maybe I will actually. And technology, Jewish ethics, feminism, song and the lyrical, and many others. And I'm now thinking in my head of the list of some of those that dialogue, and we've had some very prestigious scholars writing the entries for us, and we're delighted that to date we have around 13 of the first entries of the Encyclopaedia published, and you can see them on the website of SAET. So I encourage you to do that, and then we're going to be publishing more entries on a rolling basis, and so it's a project that's kind of not coming to an end today, but really we're kind of launching it today, and you'll be able to follow it through hopefully over the coming years. So I think when we think of what an encyclopedia is, as my son said to me before, is an encyclopedia about the world. Now, an encyclopedia, as many of us will know, it is about about the world in Jewish thought. There have been encyclopedias before. So what is different about making an encyclopedia in the 21st century? Would it not have been enough to use an encyclopedia that was published in the last century? So I just want to talk about that a little bit. So I'll reflect on that in a minute. So the first reason is because we want to address contemporary issues. So we're going to be having, and so we have the entry on technology. We're going to be having an entry on Jewish thought and bioethics, an entry on artificial intelligence. And, these issues are specific to the 21st century that, they're just subjects that people haven't written about before, and they're going to have, if they're not having already, a huge impact on the way we think and talk theologically. And it's very exciting, actually, to be publishing some of the first Jewish theological approaches to those subjects. Secondly, as to why it's different to do this in the 21st century, is because we want to talk about traditional concepts that will have appeared in previous encyclopedias from contemporary perspectives. So to take ideas, your kind of big categories of God, revelation, redemption, and to look at them from new perspectives, to think about, which big changes there have been in the world, which affect the way that people approach these. And I think that's something that's really, really important in the encyclopedia itself, but also in a broader sense in the whole world of Jewish scholarship. And so I'm also grateful that we've had the opportunity to do that. There've also been things that, I've spoken about the 21st century, but there've been major kind of, major changes that happened, especially in the mid-20th century, that are only becoming apparent now. So one of our first entries is also on post-Shoah theology. And that I'm listing that as an example. I'm giving that as an example because it's something that is changing over time. And it's something that, even now we're going to be thinking about that differently, and especially in a post-October 7th world, where those issues are kind of arising in different ways for everyone, for Jewish thinkers and Jewish scholars as well. And it's important to kind of have the space to do that and to be as up to date as possible. Another reason of why it's kind of exciting to do this and for the 21st century is to have an interdisciplinary approach, meaning that, we will be addressing the kind of main theological Jewish categories, but together with other disciplines. So, for example, an anthropologist or a sociologist writing on Jewish ethics will, have a very different kind of conceptual approach to somebody writing on a theology of Jewish ethics, and we've tried to kind of, not that we're trying to sideline sociologists, but there will be a kind of people who can speak to certain elements of the developing Jewish tradition that will complement others as well. So also another example is study of Hasidism from an existentialist perspective. So that's taking a kind of philosophical idea and looking at Hasidut in a different way. We have scholars looking at Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic tradition from a gender perspective. So there are these kind of interdisciplinary approaches which are also very new. Never before have they been done as part of an encyclopedia of theology and Judaism. So that's also really exciting. And of course, new research, because there are ideas in Jewish theology that we've spoken about, that have been spoken about for centuries, but new ideas are being developed all the time. So we have entries on magic, angels, love, music, and more. And the entries that we're about to commission are Agadah and Midrash, science, free inquiry, Jewish theological approaches to animals, Jewish theological approaches to happiness, to creation, Bria, to debate and machloket, and then a whole set of, for the Kabbalists amongst us or them, Selem Elohim, the divine image, divine immanence, Shekhinah, divine name, Shmot. These are really kind of big issues, especially in the kind of Israeli schools of Jewish theology at the moment, the Ein Sof and the divine transcendence, but also ecology, education, chinuch, Talmud Torah study, evolution, freedom and slavery, chirut ve'avdut, human goodness, kavanah, intentionality, justice, tzedek, medical ethics, miracles, monotheism, Jewish approaches to other faiths, myth and narrative, plague, prayer, providence, Jewish theological approaches to psychology. We have 2 entries on reasons for the commandments, one from a pragmatist perspective, that's for another time, and one from a Kabbalistic perspective, and entries on one new entry on matriarchs and patriarchs, staka, religious diversity, and revelation. And that's not the full list. So it's really, really very exciting. And the creation of the encyclopedia presents an important test case for us for contemporary conceptualizations of theology in the broader sense. We're very, very grateful to have the opportunity to do this. I believe that it's a real gift to students, but not only to students, to scholars, and in fact to anybody who wants to know more, who wants to learn more about these new exciting perspectives. And it's really a privilege to keep developing this exciting endeavor. So we didn't just want to talk about the encyclopedia, we wanted to give a taste of the entries from the encyclopedia. There are not that many UK-based authors, but the UK-based authors we have have written and are writing, no pressure, entries of a very high quality and of very exciting subjects. So I will hand over to Rafi to introduce the authors of the entries. Thank you very much.